Hello again, and now we're live directly from New York. And this is London calling New York. Hi, how are you?
Hi, nice to see you. Casey Gillette here. How was the last
nice to see you as
few
well.
hours?
Oh, it's gonna be
good.
It was
All
really
right,
great.
so kicking off here in New York.
It's like escalating all the things.
It's a lot to take in, I think, right?
It's getting intense, right? Yes.
Well, good. Good. Well, my name is Casey Gillette, and I will be your host here in New York. I'm the Senior Director of Digital at Co-Marketing. We're a B2B agency out of Boston, so made the trip down for the day. We work specifically with B2B companies. I've been in the industry for about 15 years, and our mission is really to create custom digital marketing programs, for businesses across the globe. So that's me, but that doesn't matter. We have a great group of panelists today. Fernando, back to you. Do you want to tell everyone what we're doing?
Our conference, we have a 50 minutes presentation and 50 minutes discussion with our panelists. And of course, every single time we are remarking that you can join the conversation using the hashtag Global Marketing Day, or just go directly to our YouTube channel in globalmarketingday.com.
Very cool. So out of our New York studios, we'll be speaking with some top marketers from Disney, Verizon, Google, and more. And for the next 90 minutes, we actually have something really cool. So we'll have speakers from both London and New York on the panels. Now, if you're just joining us, here's how it works. The conference is broken into 30-minute segments. Our featured speaker presents for 15, and that's followed by a 15-minute panel discussion. As Fernando said, if you want to stay engaged on social media, use the hashtag Global Marketing Day. If you have any questions, please join us at globalmarketingday.com, and you can add to the conversation there. So thank you all so much for being here. This is really exciting. I know you guys are all local, so it's amazing, right? We have some really fantastic people here. So first up in our New York studios, we have Bob Monek, the executive producer at Walt Disney. So Bob's passion is really creating quality content driven by data, customer insights, and he has a proven track record around video and live production for all platforms. And joining Bob, we have Susan Muller. She's the Marketing Partnerships Manager at Tailwind app. She helps marketers build audiences with relevant partnerships, create fabulous content, and she helps with social media. We also have Tony Edward. He's the Director of SEO at Tenuity. Tony's been in the digital marketing industry for over 10 years. He's an adjunct professor of search marketing at NYU and a columnist at Search Engine Land. And from our London studios, we have James Finlayson, Head of Innovation at Verve Search. So James focuses on the future of SEO, applying his knowledge to Verve Search for brands including Expedia, Bentley, the BBC, and Go Compare. So let's dive into Bob's presentation, Standing Out When the Odds Are Against You.
Thank you very much, Casey. And as Casey said, I'm Bob Monek. I'm an EP WABC TV here in New York, which is part of Walt Disney Television. And a lot of my focus is on video. And what I want to talk about today is, how you stand out in a very crowded field. And it is crowded. I don't know if you're anything like me. You go home at night. Maybe you look at the cable menu, see what's on, and nothing's on, and you turn on Apple TV, and maybe you're looking through Netflix or Hulu or Prime. And if you're out of luck trying to find content there, maybe you do a Google search to see what other people are watching, and maybe that's cool. And if you're lucky enough, you find something to binge watch, so you don't have to go through that process again for a couple of weeks. And that's just TV, right? Then you got to think about all the other platforms that are out there. YouTube, like in the last minute since we've been talking, about 300 hours of video have been uploaded to YouTube. And then there's Facebook, where 100 million hours of video are watched, I think they say, every day. So it's a very, very crowded field right now. There's a lot of haystacks out there, and it's hard to get discovered in those haystacks. So I have a few suggestions, if you will, or this is the way I think about things. Number one is the ABC formula. Since I worked for ABC, this was an obvious choice. Number one, attention. Number two, brand value. Number three, call to action. When I talk about attention, it's like we are all distracted, right? I mean, I walk into the kitchen and my kids are on the phone and I'm asking them questions and yeah, Dad. You know, it's like they can't get off their phones, right? That's the day and age that we're in. So you want to have content that grabs the attention. I thought Blend Tech, with its Will It Blend campaign, did a wonderful job, like getting its product out there. You know, who doesn't want to see an iPhone in a blender get crushed to death, right? Especially when the new iOS comes out. Then you're talking about brand value. You want to be true to your brand, and I don't think anybody does it better than maybe Red Bull. You think about the content they produce for YouTube, like What Is Job or Who Is Job, or some of the events that they sponsor. It has nothing to do with their product, but it does have everything to do about their audience, and it's true to their brand, and it connects them in a different way. And then I think Krispy Kreme has done a terrific job employing influencers to get the word out about their content. The picture you see on the screen is from when they launched in Ireland. They gave some donuts to a group called Try, a group of Irish people trying Krispy Kreme donuts for the first time. It's one of their most popular videos, and that store in Ireland is their fastest growing international store after year one. So those three things I think are key: attention, brand value, and call to action. And then the other thing I think about is whenever I'm creating any kind of content is audience first, and I employ the 5 W's that I learned in journalism school. Who is interested in what I'm doing? Right? What do they want or need to know? Where are they consuming content is a key question. And when should we engage them? And of course, why should they care about what we're doing? And then in part of the big strategy of reaching the audience first is trying to figure out where they are. And obviously, the biggest thing right now is digital video domination. I mean, I don't know here on this panel, you know, how much video you watch every day. I probably watch a couple of hours every day. The average person is watching, every other person is watching about an hour of online video a day. Some are watching 3 hours a day, which is a little heavy, but you know, if you're in the video business, that's what you do. Consumers, 54%, more than half, want more video from their brand or business that they support. So you got to be in this video space if you want to make a dent. And the other thing that's important to remember is how impactful video is with the audience. 95% remember that call to action over a text or a photo campaign. So video is key to reaching the audience. The other key is this, right? Mobile is the only thing that matters. Everybody is on their phone. I took these 2 pictures, right? In 2012, I took the picture because I was trying to show the diversity that exists on the New York subway. And you can see people were reading newspapers. And then the picture on the right, I took this past summer, and there are no newspapers. And I counted about 10 people on their phones, and that's why I took the picture. It's like newspapers have disappeared. Everybody is on their phone almost all the time. And if those pictures don't tell the story, then you take a look at the data. I mean, this is from Mary Meeker's report. Back in 2008, there was almost nobody on mobile. And then if you take a look at last year, we had about 4 hours a day of people watching or consuming content on their phones. The laptop and desktop devices have remained pretty stable, but it's starting to dip too. More and more people are on mobile, so you've got to be in the mobile space, and you've got to be thinking about video. Another big question that I think about is, you know, what do you want to do? Do you want to go viral, or do you want to build reach? What's more important? Of course, one of the most famous videos is, you know, Charlie bit my finger, which has like 870 million views right now. You know, going viral is a cool thing, but it's like, you know, hitting the lottery. The odds are, you know, you can spend your entire paycheck on the lottery and you're probably not going to hit it. And that's the truth with, you know, trying to come up with a viral campaign. And the other question is, what is going viral anyway? Is it 100,000 views? Is it 1 million views? Is it 870 million views? And you can, you know, buy your way to a lot of views. And I'm not sure that's the most important metric that you want to worry about anyway. To me, it's all about building reach. When you try to go viral, you're targeting a mass audience, and that mass audience might not be the audience that you want consuming your content necessarily. You really want to make a connection with the audience. Viral is also vanity, right? Hey, I got 1 million views on this video. But it's all about building relationships. And the other thing with, as I alluded to before, it's like trying to hit the lottery. You know, you got to have a volume of video that goes out there to try to get that one viral success, and you may not hit it. I think a lot about Casey Neistat when he hit 10 million subscribers on YouTube and how he explained it. You know, he talked about it was really difficult getting to 10,000 subscribers, and it was more difficult getting to 100,000, but it was easier getting to 1 million and really easy getting to 10 million. And the point I think that he was trying to make is he listened to his audience and created content that they wanted and that they wanted to engage with. And he learned from the audience how to create content that they would want to consume. And now his videos, although he's backed off on how many he creates, still get millions and millions of views. And he goes viral organically because he built a relationship with the audience. In terms of building reach, I think you have to cast a wide net. I don't think you can limit yourself to any one platform these days. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the big guys, you know, they're all into the video space heavily. YouTube is the dominant, of course. Facebook's not far behind, but other players are getting into the game too. You know, LinkedIn is in the video space now, and you know, when you have these new players getting into the video space, it's an opportunity to get your video out there because they're going to play video more favorably. TikTok is another one. A lot of kids are on TikTok, and you're going to say, well, why do I want to be there? But you know, think about it. You know, if you're not on TikTok today, where there's a ton of consumers, you're probably missing out. And even if you can't get on TikTok right away, if you don't have the bandwidth for that, you should be at least taking a look at the platform, trying to understand how it's working. I spend probably 15 or 20 minutes a day just looking at the content that's being created there. And it's not just kids. It is, you know, there are celebrities on there. There are brands on there. And so you have to take a look at all the platforms that are out there and figure out where you fit into that mix and whether you can create content that fits that platform. And the last point that I want to make about all this is data. And data, I think, while the content is king, and you want to create the quality content, data is key to anything you do. And if you're not going to measure what you're doing, why even bother? Data is key to personalization. It's key to understanding the audience. And you know, the audience today, as we alluded to earlier, they have too many choices. There are too many haystacks out there. And so if you understand the data and you can use that data to create the type of content that your audience wants, you have a better chance for success. So I look at data as targeting the right audience, creating the right context with the content that you want to create, and then choosing the right locations. When you put all of that together, once you understand, you know, the audience first mentality, you know, what type of video you want to create, where you want to create it, the mobile audience, and building that brand value, and then understanding the data and how to improve your content and where to place it. The other thing you have to think about is how to innovate. Bob Iger, in his book, The Ride of the Lifetime, you know, he talks about Roone Arledge and the advice he got. Roone Arledge was, you know, the president of ABC Sports for a long time and brought, you know, Wide World of Sports to us and Monday Night Football. And one of the pieces of advice he gave Bob was innovate or die, and it's something that stuck with Bob, and I think it's been true through his tenure at the Walt Disney Company, is that innovation is key to everything we do, whether it is from the beginning with Steamboat Willie all the way to what's coming up with Disney Plus. It's constant innovation throughout our company. And I think that has to be the case with anybody because you can't stand still in this day and age. Technology is moving too fast. The audience is moving just as fast. So you have to go with the flow and try to reach the audience. As they move, you've got to move with them. So one of the things that I wanted to show, one of the ways that ABC OTV has been innovative is a brand called Localish, which we started about a year ago. And it is a brand that we started from scratch, which is the combined efforts of our 8 local stations. And I'm going to play this video to show you a little bit about what Localish is.
Locals. They know the way.
One of the great parts about exploring San Francisco is discovering all the great parks we have here.
We're going to a place that is legendary in Chicago.
A taste of Texas on a plate.
They tell the best stories.
Every day we have a different grandmother from a different part of the world.
They care about their neighbors.
We just believe in our hearts about giving back to people.
So let's explore this country with the people who know it best. This is Localish, a media brand dedicated to telling the stories of the locals who make this country strong.
Hey, how you doing?
And we're just getting started.
You open your news app and everything is so chaotic and scary. People were happy to just see a moment of joy.
We want to create a diverse community of people who are celebrating.
It makes my heart warm and it makes my heart really happy.
Welcome home!
Did I finally have a home that'll be accessible?
What if we had this community where our friends and our family members with different disabilities could be at the center of our life together?
Backed by the power of Disney, we bring our stories to audiences wherever they are, across digital and social, on the go in cabs and airports, and on TV stations in major cities across the country.
That blew my mind.
So join us for the start of something incredible, because the future of storytelling is localish.
The ultimate we're at the wait spot.
You don't want to skip anything.
So that's Localish. And Localish started, like I said, a year ago. And I think it brings together all of the points that I've been trying to make this morning. You know, it started out as a show called More in Common. The executive producer, Michael Koenigs, came up with the idea, in part due to his background and some experience he had as a kid, and in part due to the era we live in. You know, think about it, we talk so much about what divides us, and this series was about, how are we, the same? What brings us together? What makes us more in common? And so we pitched the idea to Facebook Watch, and that's how it started, as a Facebook Watch show. From there, we expanded into 10 or more series at this point, and lives on the Localish website and on Facebook. Then we have on-air integrations in our 8 markets. It's distributed in taxis and airports. And then we also produced a 30-minute special that was also viewed in our 8 markets. And that was just in the first year. And now, where we are today, we are on all these platforms. Like I talked about, you want to build that reach. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, it's on YouTube, it's on the air. Localish TV is going to be part of our environment. It's in our news broadcast. These full stories air in our news broadcast across the country. It's on all our own digital platforms, from abc.com to our apps, to our own station digital platforms. And it's also syndicated now. It's also on YouTube, on Yahoo and AOL and Apple News, and it's still in airports and taxis. And really, it just shows that you can start a brand from scratch, start with nothing, and end up with content that lives across all platforms and gets lots of views if you're true to your audience. And we try to be that way. And I think Localish sums up our audience and how we try to connect with them in big ways. It's our goals. Our brand is all about being local, being part of our community, and telling great stories. And I think that's why it's been a successful part of what we do at ABC. So that is my presentation. Thank you very much.
That was great. Thank you, Bob. It's always a good reminder that you can still be a creator in this overwhelming content space, right? There is a lot of room for creativity. So I do want to get some questions going. As the audience, if you have questions, go to globalmarketingday.com. We'll take them there. We also have our panelists out in London, Fernando and James. But I want to start with this, and Susan, I'm going to direct this at you. Bob's showing us this very crowded landscape. What are some simple tricks you think to actually get content discovered?
Well, I think the illustration of the needle in the haystack is so apt. And so I think that Bob's point about understanding who you're trying to reach is where that starts. And I think every brand also needs to be very clear on what they uniquely bring to the table. So thinking about your audience, thinking about what you bring to the table is critical. And then I think that as far as developing content goes, because there is so much, in addition to being very clear on what your value proposition is, you're often going to have to look at things that are maybe a little bit more difficult to do. I like to think of the ROI as in the effort. And if something is easy to produce as far as content goes, it's probably already out there. So you need to think about, when you're producing new content, how you can add value, how you can differentiate yourself, and how you can add that extra effort that's going to make it easy for people to be interested in. I think social is great for discovery. Paid social is fabulous. I think there's still some organic social value to be had as well. So those are some of the things I think about with content distribution.
Yeah. Absolutely, and there are so many channels now, and Bob mentioned TikTok, and I know that there's discussion around that. James, I'm going to kick this over to you. Do you have any clients using TikTok? Have you found any industries that this works for?
So we're not big on TikTok at the moment, but what we find is, if you take a step back and go, instead of going, there's this specific channel that's important. Look at okay, there are these people that are important, but what are they actually reading? The hard truth is that half of all internet traffic in the US, and it's pretty much the same in the UK, goes to less than 90 sites. So if you're going after the big media sites within that list, then it will naturally land on the social media channels that are going to get virality, is going to get people talking about it. So although, yeah, there's millions of sites you could be targeting, understanding where your audience really are, and then starting there, that's when you start seeing social media go crazy.
Bob also mentioned data, and Tony, I'll kick this one over to you.
Sure.
What are some key data points that marketers should be looking at when we're thinking about not just content creation, but content distribution? What are some of the things that you're looking at?
Sure. From an organic or SEO standpoint, we're tracking multiple data points. First is, of course, analytics. So whether you have Adobe Analytics or Google Analytics set up, you're able to take a look at the referral traffic. So to Bob's point, if you're distributing that content, are you placing the URL back to your site or to a specific landing page so you can track some of that engagement? Are folks clicking after they view the video and then following through on your site, bookmarking it, making a purchase, whatever it may be. So you're able to track it in that way, and you can also customize those URLs with UTM parameters or URL shorteners that can really help you to understand how many clicks, how many impressions, and the timeline across that based on when you launched your campaign around that video. Also, from a keyword ranking perspective, if you're distributing content on YouTube and across other different platforms, if you're tracking keyword rankings in Google search and Bing, you're able to see if maybe your video is ranking accordingly for the respective keywords or for your brand terms. So you're able to get a snapshot there. There's also the manual play, because we don't have full integration into, let's say, YouTube, into Google rankings. We use third-party tools. You can also search for your brand and different terms that are your bread and butter terms and see if those videos are appearing. So there's multiple data points, and the information is there. You just have to put the pieces together to tell the story.
Yeah. So one of the questions that came in, and Susan, this might be a good one for you, being at Tailwind. What's the best channel or platform in B2B when you're trying to target the C-level?
Wow, so that's a great question. And I think when you're targeting the C-level, I would lean toward LinkedIn. Also Twitter. I think that sometimes there's a place for communicating and starting conversations with people on Twitter for C-level folks. So those are two of the places that I would look to first. I think that if the results are not there, then you would expand. You could also look to Facebook simply because their targeting information is so great. You might be able to find groups of people there. I'd love to know what the others think about those as well.
Yeah, Tony, do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. I'm in agreement. LinkedIn is definitely the most targeted to B2B. But, to Bob's point, in building a digital footprint, you never know where folks can come across your brand or your content. So you definitely want to focus your efforts on places like LinkedIn and Twitter, and a bit of research. A lot of business owners that have Twitter handles and things like that. I think you got to build your customer persona buckets and understand where they're at. But I'm also a big believer in that maybe in their downtime, maybe they're outside of the 9 to 5, maybe they're on YouTube and they may come across your content. So casting the wide net, I think, is very important, but being focused on LinkedIn as well, maybe more the efforts there.
Yeah, YouTube too, because like you're saying, I mean, a lot of people are looking for how to do things, and a business-to-business standpoint, if you're trying to train people on Adobe, for instance, that is perfect space because there's so much content out there that people are looking for to learn, how to make their skills stronger.
Yeah, that's a great point. The how-to stuff is always, I think it's such a big opportunity.
I think research too, like if you're creating something that is unique and that offers value and insight into an industry, that type of content is going to reach a C-suite audience more so than a basic list post. So you might think about not only what channel, but what you're creating for that audience, like Mary Meeker's report. Yeah. That's very difficult to do, but it's research-based and it provides value for the entire industry.
James, I loved your thoughts on making sure you're using the right channel. The other question I have, and I think a lot of people might have when we're talking about video, is where to start, right? So if someone's actually interested in video, do you have any thoughts on tips of where they should actually be starting?
Well, as with any marketing activity, it's about understanding what your audience are actually asking. And those questions, I think people get confused in thinking, well, I need to look at what the search volume is for particular questions on YouTube if they're doing video alone. Increasingly, you're seeing, of course, when people are searching on Google, they'll see the videos results there. So look across all channels. You can do some social listening. You can just do some general keyword research. Understand the questions that people are asking. We do a lot nowadays with pulling them out the search results specifically so that we can understand and then categorizing them. There's a lot of stuff with NLP to understand general themes that can be done.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, specifically when we're thinking about search. Tony, are you guys doing anything like that?
Yeah. I'm going to give you an example of a B2B client we actually did some work with along those lines. They were hosting their videos, I believe, on Vimeo. And we're like, can we move it to YouTube? Because I think we'll get more eyeballs on your content. They're like, well, the quality, we would rather have it on Vimeo. So I said, okay, how about we do this? The videos you have on Vimeo, let's embed them on the site respectively so you can maintain that quality. But to get more reach, get more eyeballs on the content, let's get it on YouTube, let's optimize it, put the right video tags, descriptions, the URL back to the site, optimize the YouTube channel, brand it. And we did that and they started getting views and traction. Now, was every video successful? No, but there's a lot of trial and error there. But they started seeing the benefit. Like, hey, YouTube is considered the second largest search engine. Some folks would think it's Bing, but Google owns YouTube and it's going to have a preference for that, and videos from YouTube are going to rank high in web search.
Yeah, James, I want to stay with you. So I know at Verve you guys work with a lot of big brands, and one of the questions that just came in is, I think it's really important, how do you actually keep your brand and voice aligned when you're trying to use multiple social media channels, right? Like, they all have a vibe of their own, and we all want to be a little bit specific to each one, but how do you keep that voice consistent?
So I think it goes back again to thinking less about channels and thinking about the broad message that you're going to send across them. So for example, we had a campaign go live for a bingo brand called Buzz Bingo in the UK. And no one really, the audience who was talking about bingo, it's not huge, but we created a piece where we showed that Cristiano Ronaldo makes more money from Instagram than he makes from football. And that's ended up on 700 different websites in the last 2 weeks. About 200 of them are linking. And we took that originally to where the eyeballs are, to the big media sites, to the New York Times of the world, to the Guardians of the world. And actually from there, their own channels deal with how it then moves across there. And so as the media then re-reports it creates naturally flowing down to those different channels. The message gets tweaked and changed there by people who are actually pushing it rather than forcing a slightly different way for a slightly different audience on Twitter than you are on other channels, for example.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we forget about that, there's the idea that you don't control your brand, right? We actually don't have control over that. Well, that does bring us to the end of this presentation. This was fantastic. I want to send a big thank you to Bob Monek, executive producer at Walt Disney, Susan Muller, marketing partnerships manager at Tailwind App, Tony Edward, director of SEO at Tenuity, and of course, James Finlayson, head of innovation at Verve Search. Thank you for joining us out of London. We hope our viewers, I hope you really look forward to applying a lot of these things, a lot of the strategies. Thank you for your questions. For those of you watching, again, please feel free to share your thoughts on Twitter. Use the hashtag globalmarketingday.com, and that wraps up this panel.